Number one since 1998 on television, ESPN Radio, and the World Wide Web, this is the Pro Wrestling Report with your hosts, the man they call Meathead, Frank Cosentino, and Damian Nelson. Professional wrestling news, opinion, and information from fans for fans.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report. Primetime. Damian Nelson sitting alongside the man they call Meathead, the cause. I lost again. And the man they call Dave Hero, not able to make it with us this week. But coming off the heels of this past Sunday's Bash results, ESPN radio show, we've got some things we weren't able to get to in the radio show that we're going to give you this week here on TV, specifically, Meathead. Last Tuesday night, we had the honor and the privilege of being live at WWE Smackdown.
Honor and privilege are two words that I would choose not to use in the description of that.
WWE Smackdown live at Milwaukee's Bradley Center. It was actually, last time we were at a live event here in Milwaukee was September last year's for SmackDown. Your thoughts, before I get into mine, about that live SmackDown experience. Many say SmackDown the best show right now out there in professional wrestling, including 63%. I'm sorry, not 63%, but 35% of you, the viewers out there in PWR world. But did it really translate live that way?
Honor and privilege. Again, two words that I wouldn't use to describe the live experience of SmackDown ECW. Maybe we're spoiled.
Perhaps.
Maybe we're spoiled because the reviews of the matches, amongst the IWC, who weren't there,
community,
said that was an amazing SmackDown, everything. I was bored out of my mind. I didn't want to see Swagger twice.
Who?
Swagger.
There was actually some spit on that one.
I didn't want to see Swagger twice. We also saw, who else did we see twice?
Evan Bourne.
Evan Bourne? I did want to see Evan Bourne twice. That's, I'm okay with that. But many things perplexed me. And the man they call Frank Cosentino sitting next to me, and both of us looking at each other, just in utter disbelief. What was the purpose of the cage?
Do you subscribe to the philosophy of if there is cage, there should be blood?
98.6% of the time. 98.6. The cage, if you pay attention to wrestling, was meant to either A, continue a feud, B, keep outside interference away from interfering, or C, get hardcore.
And none of those things happened.
Or were applied in this match. Matter of fact, there was a special guest referee in there, and there was pinfalls and submissions.
That's a little secret they've slipped into cage matches over the last few years that a lot of people haven't noticed. This cage used to be only two ways to win: climb over the top or exit the door. Now, I'd say probably in the last 5 years or so, every cage match, just about every cage match, there's a referee in the cage to get the 1, 2, 3. So again, to your point, what's the point of the cage?
And
it's a prop.
I don't understand either. Again, we're supposed to buy into this. We're marks. You're Mark. We're marks. We're supposed to buy into this whole thing. But it insults our intelligence, and yours as well, to think that while there's a 2-person or 3-person attack going on, why doesn't the other person run out the door?
Dave Hero was also at the show. He did not even stay till the end. Now, I've got some observations of the show. Actually, I thought it was entertaining. Was it great? No. Was it bad? No, not in my opinion. But here is what I noticed. And as you said earlier, Meathead, perhaps we're spoiled. We've been to shows from all other organizations. Ring of Honor, TNA, several WWE shows, WrestleMania, the Hall of Fame.
Independents have blown me away as well.
Here's what I noticed about SmackDown in this particular instance. Mm-hmm. All they were doing, not the wrestlers, but everyone else, and it's important to watch everyone else. And I'm talking Grisham, JR, I'm talking Stryker, I'm talking Josh Matthews, I'm talking the ring announcer, the referees, the production crew. Everybody was just going through the motions. They were simply producing a television show, which on a global scale that World Wrestling Entertainment is, they certainly have to do that. But there was no passion. There was no belief. There was no feeling. Everyone was just, where should I be now? Where should I be next? What should I do next? And
it was
again,
a wrestling TV show by the numbers.
Exactly. And again, the wrestling I thought was good. I thought SmackDown actually was very good live, especially compared to the last time we saw it, September of 2008. It was a good show. But they were going through the motions. The passion wasn't there. I've talked about Don West's passion. I've talked about Mike Tenay's passion. Whether you agree with their work or not, they believe in the product. They know the product. They enjoy the product, and that translates into their presentation.
And it's a shame, too, because I did watch SmackDown after we went to it. Punk Morrison was a good match.
It was a great match. And who would have thought Morrison would win?
Somewhat clean.
I was being a fan, and I had my hands up 1, 2, and I held at 2, and then ref kept going at 3. Shocking. Didn't expect that at all. But I think to that point, they're playing this Punk tweener role very, very well.
So far.
Indeed, so far. Leading all the way up through the Bash this Sunday night on pay-per-view, this past Sunday night on pay-per-view, where Punk retained the World Heavyweight Championship up against Jeff Hardy. But that's what I have to say about SmackDown. There's about 5,000 to 7,000 people there, and I guess that the E-Marks can come up with all the reasons why it wasn't sold out.
I have a small reason why it's not sold out. And Damien, in his other life, can give you a better explanation. And we've talked about this off camera.
Worlds colliding.
Okay, we've talked about this off camera. But if you get them all at whatever price, maybe 2 weeks beforehand, do you really want to fill the arena and sell merchandise, sell concessions, get people in the building? Start papering the event.
The crowd was fairly dead, unless you count the entrances of Rey Mysterio and Vince McMahon. I would say we got a McMahon bonus.
A surprise Vince McMahon, who was the most entertaining of the night. Non-wrestling. Non-wrestling.
Shelton Benjamin telling the truth.
You be skipping and jumping.
Because who says Shelton can't do it on the mic? Come on now.
That was written for him, but he delivered it. And you may notice that
it was a very
Damien,
anti-black SmackDown.
Yeah,
I thought.
Damien pretends to be black. I'm black as well. And I don't be skipping and
We're
jumping.
in high definition, and clearly you're white.
Hey, I took a what Dave Chappelle character are you quiz, and apparently I'm Chuck Taylor.
Is that the correct one?
No, that's the news anchor guy, the white guy. But black underneath.
Best reactions, as I said, McMahon and Rey Mysterio. Just when you compare the two, TNA Live to WWE Live, we've made this point again. TNA appreciates their fans. WWE
Mark. TNA Mark, right there.
WWE
TNA
takes
Mark.
their fans for granted. Even when they do fan festivals, you look at the Access Festival and whatnot, they consider themselves to be getting in front of the fans and really giving the fans unique opportunities. Do they get more than they would get at a normal event? Absolutely, there is no doubt. But do they get as much as they could give? No.
They get admission at the door on Access.
It's all about the money.
Now
they charge for it, indeed. Well, TNA charges for their fan festivals as well. But you're up close and personal with all of the TNA superstars at those events. I'm just comparing two experiences, having been to both. And SmackDown, I thought, was and WWE in general, I think, is not as appreciative of their fans as TNA is. But TNA has to be, because TNA is up and climbing. WWE is the league. They are the top. They are the pinnacle of sports entertainment, not wrestling. And they have certain liberties that they can take as it pertains to that. But specifically, let's talk about good old JR Jim Ross, a man who I idolize, a man who is a bit of a mentor for me, a man who didn't give the fans at ringside the time of day.
At some point, Damien used to have an email address that was good old DN.
Oh, I still have it.
Yeah, good old DN.
I still have it.
At noneyourbusiness.com.
It was AOL.com. That was who uses AOL anymore.
People from Time Warner.
But JR, I mean, I give Todd Grisham credit. He signed an autograph at ringside. He did so reluctantly. Matt Stryker was really, if I had to vote as to who was the most into it and who was having the most fun and enjoying themselves, it certainly would be Stryker of the production group. But I was a little disappointed in Jim Ross. Jim Ross, I mark these words, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to make a royal prediction. JR is not around for more than another 12 months in more wrestling entertainment.
He's tired. He's probably tired.
Well, and again, he's on SmackDown, which he says he enjoys. That provides wrestling. That's what he wants. I buy that.
Here's the problem, though. JR isn't a color commentator like he's supposed to.
Right. And why didn't they hear? I was thinking about this actually randomly the other night. Wouldn't it have been smarter to take Stryker to SmackDown, pair him with JR, than to take Grisham to SmackDown? They've got to build more play-by-play guys, because really all they got is Cole and JR.
You know what? Josh can go play.
Josh can. He can, but I don't think he's there yet. But to elevate somebody else, I think that's probably why they made the move with Grisham. But I think a JR Stryker team would have been much better, because now all Stryker does is pick on Josh.
Yeah, well, when Josh is wrong, Josh is wrong.
live SmackDown experience. We talked to someone on the radio show last week that was live at Raw. Loved the experience. I mean, there's nothing that beats a live wrestling
That's
event.
who you can blame.
The fan that was at Raw?
Mm-hmm.
How so?
You can blame them for the pie in the face.
I wasn't going to talk about that.
Oh, we are going to talk about that because I thought it was advertised on the website pwrshow.com. If you haven't been there yet, ding, that there would be footage forthcoming, of Damian Nelson dripping pie. His first, by the way.
Fine. I'm a man of my word. I was misinformed. I said I was going to take a pie to the face. I took a pie to the face. Let's go now to that footage. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We're here at Milwaukee's Bradley Center. And as I was misinformed on the June 22nd edition of the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN, apparently I've got to take a pie in the face. And I guess as we get ready to go into WWE Smackdown here, we just need to get this thing done and be over with it. So here I am in the streets of my hometown, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, fixing to make a fool of myself. And luckily enough, though, we found a very special guest to do this, and his name is the Kaz. Oh, hi, Frank. How are you?
Say some pie.
Now be gentle.
Just do it already!
What's the reason why?
Because I was misinformed
And well,
about the refunds at Raw in Green Bay Monday night.
and they gave refunds back.
That's what the reports say they may have done.
And what happened?
That's right. Who wants to watch Damien take a pie in the face?
Stop it.
I do.
Stop it. You're going to create a scene, and the MPD will be over here shortly.
Okay, so the bet was take a pie in the face if it happens.
Yes.
All right. On the count of 3. 1, 2.
He shot it all over you.
Look what you did! Oh.
Give it up, Frank.
Enjoy the show, guys. Enjoy the show.
Well, you
Who
know, here's
was
the
the
thing.
guy yelling in the background?
What was some
Just
idiot
get
named
it
Meathead?
over already.
You know what? I said I was going to do it. I did it. And I was misinformed.
Little disturbed by the cream dripping down your chin, but that's another show altogether.
Frank throws a good pie.
Frank's had a pie. Or two.
Coming up still here on this very program, we've got the return of the top 5, Meathead. Frank's absent, so that means, and we'll give more detail when we get to it, but the return of the top 5, in addition to the VI3, which you can catch each and every week on PWR Radio. But let's go to the news desk. First news item is Lillian Garcia. As you may have heard, WWE was looking for a new female announcer/singer. Well, Lillian has confirmed that she has indeed given her notice to WWE and will be leaving at the end of her contract, which expires this year. Lillian's going to be getting married and wants to spend more time with her husband and family. Sean Daivari has signed a new contract with Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. The deal is for 3 years. This is significant because there were reports that World Wrestling Entertainment was interested in bringing Daivari back. Daivari, who plays the role of Sheikh Abdul Bashir. World Wrestling Entertainment has made some changes to some pay-per-view titles in the second half of this year. Firstly, No Mercy is now called Hell in a Cell, where presumably all matches will be held inside Hell in a Cell. Unforgiven is now called Breaking Point. That's the September pay-per-view. And Cyber Sunday is gone, now titled Annihilation. Let's go to last week's ratings. Raw scores a 4.5, this being the Donald Trump episode of Raw. ECW scoring a 1.1, which is similar to that of what TNA scored, a 1.1, and Superstars with a 0.9. Brian Christopher was arrested for public intoxication late last week after being found in a convenience store and out of sorts, basically, is the way you can put it. It was later found out that later that night or the night before, he had gotten into a fight with 5 to 6 men in a Tennessee bar. One of them, an MMA fighter, who says that Christopher was one of the toughest men he's ever fought. It's the PWR News Desk. Aside from those news items, let's go now to what we talked about earlier, which is the return of the top 5, Mina. Each month now, right here on this very program, we are going to give you our 5 most influential names in professional wrestling, our 5 best talents, most influential people in professional wrestling, and the only person that can allow a change to the top 5 is the elusive Frank Cosentino.
So how are we going to do that every month? Because if he's
We
not
can
here
only
during
change it when he's, if we want to change it. You don't have to change it.
yeah, because I'm not going to want it. But
last
we'll
time we
bring it
did
up.
top 5, they stayed there for about a year.
Well, about a minute.
And a half.
We'll talk about the top 5 every month, but I don't really see my top 5 changing. You really got to earn a spot in my top 5.
Well, without further ado, let's go to it. The return of the top 5, and I will start with my number 5.
Okay, 5.
And it's going to be probably one of the most influential people in TNA wrestling right now, and that is that of the former world champion, Mick Foley. Mick Foley has added a dynamic to that program that is unrivaled amongst those in TNA. You got to give him at least this credit. If you don't agree with him being in the ring, he certainly adds an entertaining element to the weekly Impact broadcast. Number 5 on my top 5, Mick Foley.
Yeah. TNA is where we're going to stay if we're going to my top 5. Number 5.
You're rhyme. You're like Busta.
Number 5 is a man that definitely can move up. If we're going to make any kind of changes to my top 5 over the next upcoming months, he may move up. He's phenomenal. Ding. AJ Styles. Number 5.
Number 4 for me is a man who I think is probably one of the most gifted athletes in the professional wrestling business right now and over the course of the last decade. We referred to him earlier when we were talking about our live SmackDown thoughts. He is that damn good in the ring, and I'm not going to start talking about how he should be getting a chance and how he should be getting pushed.
And he was
this, that, and the
finally
other thing.
good on the microphone.
And he be Shelton Benjamin.
Ooh. Wow.
Oh, yeah, I went there.
Number 4 is Shelton Benjamin. My 5 was AJ Styles, and my 4 is actually going into the Diva realm.
Ooh, the gals.
When I get hungry for lunch, I drive by Arby's. Want to hit the drive-through and have a little roast beef. Mickey James, number 4, my top 5.
They're the number 1 contender for Maurice's Divas Championship. Wait, what? How was she doing? Was it?
I don't know. She doesn't even speak English half the time.
She did. I like how she transitioned from English to French.
Yeah.
I think it was French, anyways. Parlez-vous Francois? Right. Number 3, ladies and gentlemen, on my top 5 list is going to have to go to a man who doesn't get as much respect as he deserved because of how good he is. And I will say again, it was WrestleMania 22 when I turned the corner and I realized that this man is that damn good, to use it again. He is the man who everyone assumes every time he's in a main event is only in so because he is sleeping with the boss's wife, but I disagree.
Wait, the boss is, he's sleeping with Linda?
Maybe that's what he's doing. The boss's daughter,
Gross.
Stephanie McMahon. This, number 3 on my top 5 list is
Has it
Triple
got
H.
silver on it? Ew.
I want a divorce.
So I can watch you get it on with Triple H.
Triple H. He is probably the best in the business right now.
Number 3 on my top 5, the man sports many hair colors. He's a former two-time world heavyweight champion. And he used to have a Z on the end of his name, but now it's just Jeff
A Z makes you tough.
Hardy. Jeff Hardy, number 3.
Number 2 for me is another man who is right in the runnings for being one of the top performers in the business right now. A man who I have not always been a fan of, but a man who has truly come of his own in the last several months as a heel, and he is Chris Jericho.
Wow.
Oh yeah, I went there.
You went there. Huh? Well, number 2 for me is a man who's now being referred to. It's part of his gimmick name. They don't put it up on the screen yet in the on-screen tag, the bug on the screen, but he is a Viper. Walks very slowly and intentfully. There's a bunch of words there I could use. Randy Orton. Number 2.
Do you hear voices?
In my head.
Do they talk to you?
I taste blood that's drying.
Here's the thing about Randy Orton and Triple H. He was my number 3, was Triple H. Your number 2, Randy Orton. Here's the part I don't like, and it's the presentation. This past Monday night on Raw, after that match at the Bash, the 3 stages of the hell match, Randy Orton is beat to hell. He can barely walk to the ring. He can barely carry the title. Yet Triple H has a bandage around his left leg, yet he's fine.
And did you notice the slip-up by the King?
I noticed slip-ups by the King and Michael Cole all night long, talking about how Triple H was going to have to wrestle Randy or John Cena that same night.
Yeah.
And then Michael Cole correcting himself. Well, as I understand, that match will be next week. You fools. You're produced. It shouldn't be that difficult. We're not produced, and we make mistakes, but that's expected.
Yeah. Well, it's because I'm an idiot.
Number 1 for me, the top man in the business right now, above all else, is the Viper, Randy Orton. Randy Orton is just excellent. His character delivery, his character building, his professional wrestling skills, he's
not the top
absolutely
in professional wrestling skills, but as far as the overall package.
overall package. He
Yeah.
could be the total package, if you will.
I hope not, because I didn't like that guy.
Randy Orton, number 1 on my top 5. So going down the list, my 5: Mick Foley, Shelton Benjamin, Triple H, Chris Jericho, and Randy Orton.
Number 1 for me is your number 2, as my number 2 was your number 1. The number 1 heel in the business, even though he's not booked as so, he is the top heel right now. His name is Chris Jericho, 1/2 of the Unified Tag Team Champions.
That is the top 5. As we said, each month we'll update if necessary. Frank's the only one who can authorize changes. Frank's he's the
Changes as in
HNIC.
additions or subtractions or movement?
Well, you got to take somebody out to put somebody in.
I'm talking about movement. Like I said, the phenomenal one could move on that list
Oh, that's an interesting point. We'll have to ask Frank about that.
when we see him.
You can tweet Frank on Twitter, but most importantly, you can tweet the Pro Wrestling Report. Follow us at twitter.com/PWR show. Twitter.com/PWR
I'm
show.
on the tweeter now.
You tweet?
Yeah, I'm being followed. I've only put in 2 entries, but I'm being followed by a bunch of people.
Several
It's weird.
interviews have been posted to pwrshow.com in the interview section. Make sure you check those out, including a very popular interview with Kevin Nash and Al Snow. Al
Which
Snow,
one? Which Kevin Nash? There was 2 of them.
We only have one of them actually posted right now, the latest one that we did back in March. But Al Snow, did he or did he not provide education to wrestling fans?
What's
around the
ironic
world?
about that Al Snow interview is it was literally halfway through when we start the tape.
Yeah, there's
on
much more actually that we didn't
Yeah.
post.
You can dig through the PWR shows. I believe that might be available down the road.
And on iTunes, you can subscribe to us. Subscribe to us
Al
on
stole an
iTunes
hour. He stole an hour from us, but it's okay.
at pwrshow.com. Meathead, here's a question. Now, I've been thinking. Dixie Carter did an interview at TNAWrestling.com just
She's
this
also
past
kissed
Monday.
you. That's your second kiss from a woman.
She has indeed kissed me. She's a sweet woman.
I like her.
She
No,
talked about
whoa.
the competition.
I met her. She was nice.
Between WWE and TNA and made some interesting points, specifically saying they do expect to go head-to-head against one of World Wrestling Entertainment's programs at some point. And their first goal was to beat ECW, which they have done. Now they're going after SmackDown and then Raw. Now, will they go head-to-head against Raw? Absolutely not. Is it smarter for them to go head-to-head against ECW or SmackDown? Yes. But at the same time, Dixie, I got to call you out on this. To me, it makes no sense to make that move because then you're splitting the audience. She made a very valid point as well, saying there are no plans for that move anytime in the near future. However, she wants the audience overall to grow. Did not see any benefit to WWE's decline in ratings, but spoke about TNA's 20% increase in ratings over the course of the last 12 months. Made a lot of valid points. Now, here's the question, and something I've been thinking about. WWE, if they wanted to, if they didn't see things the way Dixie Carter sees them, which is seeing that the competition is good for the business, if they wanted to, World Wrestling Entertainment could put TNA essentially out of business, and here's how. Simply put one of their programs, whether it be Raw or SmackDown, head-to-head against TNA. Do that first. Then, reach out and do what WCW did to WWF. High-dollar contracts to top key talents to take them back because most of them are simply doing it for the money. Give them the limited, and let me rephrase that. Most of them would do it for the money. Let me rephrase that again, okay? Most would do that for the money. Give them the short schedule, just simply get them on the roster. Take the Macho Mans, take the Mean Genes, take the Bobby Heenans, take everybody that they raid the talent. If they wanted to, and I'm not advocating this, but it's something to say to all the fans out there that are saying that TNA will never be as good as WWE or WWE is on a whole different level from TNA. If they viewed TNA as a threat, which they may or may not, and if they were smart, they wouldn't. They could put TNA out of business with those two moves.
Spike TV loves TNA.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in that particular interview, there was a quote saying, "Thank God for TNA."
fans. Yep.
Okay? So who's to say that, I mean, honestly, is WWE going to chase TNA around the weekday schedule?
They could.
They wouldn't do that.
They've got the leverage. I'm not saying
They
they
have
will,
leverage
but
with
they have the
USA,
leverage to
sure.
do that. USA, whether it be WGN, they can do almost whatever they want. They're not bound to much of anything. But if they wanted to put TNA out of business, they could.
They did
Essentially
put
out of business. Let me
Superstars
rephrase
is
that.
7 p.m. Central on
Mhm.
Thursdays.
What they did was give Impact the lead in.
Yeah.
But here's the challenge with TNA, and Kevin Nash talked about this in that interview. Why are they not advertising? There are some barriers, by the way. Some of WWE's contracts with either USA Viacom
Have
or
exclusivity.
WGN means they can approve or disapprove any other wrestling programming advertisements that's on
But
those
you
shows.
can't have. They won't be able to. Excuse my phrasing. Cock block any kind of
It could be the
outside,
first time that's been used on this show.
outside advertising.
Mhm.
Again, Kevin
Or
Nash
take the
spoke
local
of it.
markets.
Kevin Nash spoke of it. Spoke of billboards. Spoke
Yeah.
of
Which they do to a degree in a lot of the cities they visit. I will say that I did see TNA advertising outside of TNA programming just last week. However, what do you see more of? You see a lot of WWE advertising on TNA programming. Now, if WWE didn't view TNA as competition or as or nearly equal or getting close to equal, they wouldn't advertise to their fans.
Yeah, and here we're talking hypothetically again.
Hypothetically.
There is no comparison between the two. There is none. Dixie's aware of that. We're aware of that. You're aware of that. Now, underneath, right under here, you're going to put your comments. TNA drew this, this, this. WWE drew this, this, this. This company has washed up WWE stars, and onward and so forth. I mixed them up on purpose. But the point being that they are a viable company, and they're turning a profit. Which is...
Well, do people compare the arena football leagues to the NFL and say the AFL is failing because the NFL...
No, the AFL is the minor leagues of the NFL.
Well, the arena football league, I mean.
The AFL, Arena Football League, is the minor leagues
But
of
it's
the
a whole
NFL.
different... It's presented as a different product.
No, it's not. You don't know sports. You shouldn't talk about sports.
I know that arena football is an indoor football game.
It's a
on
different
a
type of
50-yard
game.
field.
It's a different type of
game.
game.
But are people comparing the two?
They won't because, again, NFL teams do use the AFL teams
Correct.
as a breeding ground, a
Correct. But
training
it's a
ground.
similar... it's an analogy that could be used because there
Sure.
are two different... AFL certainly is not as successful as the NFL. But
Correct. It never will
those
be.
comparisons are never drawn. Exactly.
And they're kept away from each other on purpose. The USFL in the early 80s
Mhm.
was played in the spring. The only way they really got started is by throwing fat dollars at guys like Herschel Walker and Jim Kelly, I believe, was quarterback during that time. And, the other players, the big-name players of that time. And, it didn't work out. Build what you got going, TNA. Just keep building. You're doing fine.
So if WWE could do this, they won't do it. Let's just get that clear. Hell, who knows? But I wouldn't say that they would do it. But TNA, according to what Dixie had to say, has a very, very solid plan.
The business model is pretty sound right now.
And, read that article, read that interview, which is available at pwrshow.com as well, and look at it for yourself and look at it objectively and look at it as it is and see that, Jeff Jarrett said it on this very program. They have taken those small steps. They followed their business plan. They haven't grown too big. And
Daniel said the same thing.
they're doing the things that they plan to do without overstepping.
Which is
again,
what
I will make
ECW
that
did.
point that if WWE wanted to, they could essentially, juggernaut
Juggernaut.
TNA out
juggernaut.
of business.
And only Juggernaut. Actually, that was just on in the control room. Did you see that?
No, I was busy.
Go.
So, interesting point, just something worth discussing and to bring up. We are going to be back on the radio on 540 ESPN this Monday night, July the 6th. So be sure you tune in and be a part of that. We'll be back with Primetime again next week. In the meantime, the
And
only
in
place you
between
need to
time.
go is pwrshow.com. We've got news, we've got videos, and all the late breaking news and information from the world of professional wrestling right there at pwrshow.com, which you can also find at milwaukeewrestling.com, the videos and podcasts of the Pro Wrestling Report. So, for the Cause and Dave Hero and the man they call Meathead, this is Damian Nelson saying thank you for tuning in, and we will see you again next week right here on the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time.
PWRshow.com. Log on and win cash.